Have you ever wondered how the economy of one of the world's most secretive countries manages to survive? In today's global environment, where trade and interconnected markets define economic success, North Korea remains afloat without embracing the basic principles of free market capitalism. Today on Global Finance 360, we'll reveal how North Korea's economy works in 2025, from its rigid state planning to the informal markets that keep millions of people alive every day. Get comfortable, subscribe if you haven't already, and join us on this deep dive into one of the world's most unique economic systems. North Korea's economic foundation starts with Juche, the ideology of self-reliance adopted by Pyongyang after the Korean War, which lasted from 1950 to 1953. Inspired by centrally planned models from the former Soviet Union and East Germany, this philosophy positioned the state as the only relevant economic actor, setting 5-year plans that covered everything from steel and cement production to agriculture and electricity generation. During the 1960s and 70s, North Korea achieved notable industrial growth. The country built hydroelectric dams and expanded its railway network to connect mineral resources in the northern mountains to iron factories in the south. But by the early 1990s, the collapse of the Soviet Union and severe droughts delivered a fatal blow. The loss of energy and raw material subsidies led to a drop in production that the planned economy couldn't correct. Millions of families faced shortages of food and fuel. With little official response, the first jangmadang, or municipal markets, began to appear. Citizens traded whatever they could grow, produce, or import: rice, dried seaweed, recycled clothing, and even some Chinese goods. By 2025, these informal markets now sustain around 40% of the urban population. In Pyongyang and other cities, stalls offer vegetables grown in backyard gardens, chickens and eggs raised at home, and snacks made using imported Chinese ingredients. Prices aren't set by the government. They fluctuate with supply and demand. A kilo of rice, for example, might cost the equivalent of $5 one day and jump to $8 the next, depending on the harvest and currency availability. This parallel economy, although unofficial, acts as a vital buffer that prevents full-scale humanitarian collapse when state-run factories underperform. In the formal sector, the state still publishes production goals and annual targets. North Korea's Ministry of Economy and Central Bank set an official exchange rate, but reality looks quite different. On the streets, yuan, South Korean won, and US dollars are exchanged at black market rates that reflect the true value of the currency. External estimates suggest that North Korea's GDP in 2024 stood at around $40 billion, with a breakdown of roughly 50% industry, 30% services, and 20% agriculture. But these figures should be taken with caution. Official data is extremely opaque and rarely verified. A major pillar of North Korea's economy is its mining sector, particularly coal and mineral exports, which account for over 60% of total exports. China is the primary buyer, receiving nearly 90% of North Korea's coal exports and sending back refined oil and agricultural machinery in return. Trade with China flows through a land border and a special economic zone port, where Pyongyang permits joint ventures. These ventures generate limited foreign currency and local jobs. The area includes Chinese-run assembly plants and shipping terminals that connect directly to Russian Pacific ports. Russia also plays a smaller but still important role. It sends timber, agricultural goods, and construction materials, while importing strategic minerals. This trade has grown thanks to bilateral agreements that bypass UN sanctions through direct barter, avoiding international financial systems. This lowers transaction costs and reduces exposure to fines or seizures. International sanctions have hit North Korea's energy, textile, and financial sectors the hardest. Since 2020, the country's official oil import quota has been reduced by about 30%, forcing the state to ration heating fuel, transportation, and electricity. Much of the urban infrastructure relies on diesel generators in hospitals, factories, and trains. To close the gap, black market fuel smuggled from China is sold at local markets at up to 3 times the official price. To generate hard currency, North Korea has also developed alternative income sources. Cryptocurrency mining and cyberattacks on international financial platforms generate undeclared funds used to buy essential technology and equipment on the global market. While there are no official statistics, analysts estimate that annual earnings from these activities are close to $1 billion, which covers a large portion of the country's critical imports. Another key source of income is labor export. North Korean workers, mostly engineers, doctors, and construction professionals, are sent abroad, especially to Russia and China. They send home remittances that represent up to 5% of North Korea's GDP. These funds feed back into the jangmadang economy, providing fresh currency that circulates through underground banks and into local markets, where they're used to buy food, medicine, and spare parts. North Korea's agriculture still faces deep structural challenges. The country's mountainous terrain limits arable land, and farming techniques remain largely outdated. In response, the government has promoted vertical farming in greenhouses and urban hydroponic crops to boost food production, but the scale of these initiatives is still limited. Meanwhile, family-run agricultural cooperatives have introduced enhanced seed varieties and imported chemical fertilizers, increasing crop yields by as much as 30% per hectare. These small-scale improvements have helped stabilize local food supplies in areas where state distribution systems fall short. In summary, North Korea's 2025 economy is a mosaic. It blends rigid state planning with informal market dynamics, tightly controlled foreign trade, and clandestine revenue-generating activities. This unique combination allows Pyongyang to walk a fine line between political control and economic survival. North Korea has also established special economic zones, where limited foreign investment, mainly from Chinese firms, is allowed, particularly in light manufacturing and industrial agriculture. These zones offer reduced tax rates and fewer customs restrictions, attracting modest inflows of capital and technology. However, these volumes remain small compared to other emerging economies. The services sector, while minor compared to industry and agriculture, has experienced growth within jangmadang markets and underground digital platforms. Food vendors, electronics repair specialists, and even informal private schools operate in exchange for foreign currency. Authorities often turn a blind eye to these services when they help ease shortages of essential goods, but step in quickly if they pose a threat to the official narrative. On the technology front, Pyongyang and Kaesong host state-supervised IT parks where developers create software, mobile apps, and video games. Some of this software is sold internationally through digital agribusiness platforms and translation services, bringing in additional revenue. While internet access is heavily restricted, North Korea maintains a high-speed domestic internet, and some developers reportedly use encrypted tunnels to connect with the outside world. These alternative ventures are largely funded through remittances from overseas workers and cryptocurrencies mined by elite military cyber units. The use of crypto has enabled a parallel foreign currency circuit that's beyond the full control of the central bank, yet still utilized by the state to offset urgent trade deficits. One of the most surprising elements is the resilience of local entrepreneurs. Young engineers and technicians, trained in North Korean universities and often through academic exchanges with China or Russia, apply their knowledge of automation and robotics in makeshift home workshops. They repair farm equipment, build basic drone prototypes for agriculture, and even repurpose industrial machinery. These grassroots innovations, though small in scale, show how technical education is helping diversify production beyond the state sector. Still, structural challenges persist. Limited access to modern technology, aging infrastructure, and low agricultural productivity continue to cap growth potential. According to international estimates, without major reforms to allow broader private sector participation and freer access to hard currency, North Korea's annual growth rate is likely to remain stuck between 1% and 2% for the foreseeable future. Altogether, this hybrid system has managed to sustain a centralized economy with minimal external resources, alongside a tolerated informal market that acts as a safety valve. North Korea remains a fascinating case study for economists and analysts alike, a country that has shown remarkable capacity for adaptation without fully abandoning its original model. As we've seen, North Korea's survival strategy in 2025 blends state planning, informal markets, controlled trade, and hidden foreign exchange operations. Let us know in the comments. What surprised you the most about North Korea's economy? Do you think a system like this could work in other countries? And if you found this analysis interesting, don't forget to subscribe to Global Finance 360 and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.